I waited 4 hours at the restaurant for our anniversary dinner. He told me he got stuck in traffic. But when he finally walked in, he wasn't alone. He brought another girl, held her hand, and sat down across from me. I thought it was a joke until he looked me dead in the eye and said, "This is my real date. You're just my roommate who took it too seriously. My name is Claire Hartley. I'm 27, a freelance interior designer living in Chicago. I've always been the kind of person who believes in slow-burning love stories, the ones that feel like a cup of warm tea on a cold day. The kind that sneak up on you until one day, you realize your life is stitched together with the moments you shared with someone." That's how I felt about Jake. At least that's how I thought he felt about me. Jake and I met 3 years ago at a design expo. He was tall, had this effortless smirk that made you feel like you were in on a secret, and he talked about architecture like it was art and religion combined. He was 30, worked as an architect downtown, and everything about him felt grounded, stable, magnetic. When he mentioned he needed a roommate because his best friend was moving out, I didn't even hesitate. I moved in 2 weeks later. The chemistry was immediate. We shared late-night talks over cheap wine, made brunch every Sunday, binge-watched crime documentaries, and once when I got sick, he skipped work to take care of me. He always said, "You're the only one who understands my kind of crazy." I thought we were slowly becoming something more. I mean, he kissed me on New Year's Eve. We spent Valentine's Day together. We slept together a few times. Not one-night stands. Real, intimate, soul-deep nights. So when our 3-year anniversary of living together came up, I planned something special. I made a reservation at his favorite restaurant, Bella Fiora, an upscale Italian place near the Riverwalk. I wore the navy blue silk dress he once said made me look like a goddess. I curled my hair, wore the perfume he bought me last Christmas, and even brought a small gift. A framed blueprint sketch of the loft we always said we'd build together one day. I got there at 6 p.m. sharp. He texted at 6:15. "Sorry, traffic's insane. Be there soon." I smiled. It was Jake. He was always late. No big deal. At 7, the waiter asked if I wanted to order. I declined. At 8, I asked for water and stared at the door. By 9:30, the place had emptied out. The hostess gave me a sympathetic smile. I debated leaving. Maybe he got into an accident. Maybe his phone died. Maybe something happened. At 10 p.m. I saw him walk in. But he wasn't alone. His hand was laced with someone else's. A tall brunette in a short red dress that screamed, "I'm not here to play it subtle." She giggled at something he whispered in her ear, and they walked toward me, my table. My heart stopped. I half laughed, thinking he must have brought her as some elaborate anniversary surprise, maybe a prank or a weird couple's joke. But then he pulled out the chair across from me, sat down with her still clinging to his side, and said, "This is my real date. You're just my roommate who took it too seriously." The words didn't register at first. I blinked, trying to process them. My lips parted, but no sound came out. He wasn't joking. His eyes were cold. Not embarrassed. Not apologetic. Just flat. I felt the ground shift under me. His date looked at me and said, "You didn't tell me your roommate was this pretty." No wonder she got confused. I couldn't breathe. Every moment, every memory, every time I thought he was looking at me with love, it all shattered like glass. I stood up, heart racing, and left the restaurant without a word. I thought he'd follow. He didn't. That night, I cried harder than I ever had. Not just because he humiliated me. Not just because he pretended I meant nothing. But because I genuinely believed he was the one. And he tossed me away like trash. But here's the thing about rock bottom. Once you hit it, there's only one way to go. And Jake? He had no idea what kind of storm he just unleashed. The next morning, I woke up with swollen eyes, mascara-stained pillows, and a rage in my chest that felt like fire. I couldn't believe it. I kept replaying his words over and over. "You're just my roommate who took it too seriously." How many nights had I cooked for him? How many times had I supported him during deadlines, fought with landlords, cleaned up after his parties, been there when he cried over his dad's death? How many times had I mistaken comfort for love? I stayed in bed for most of the day, thinking he'd text me, call me, say it was a misunderstanding, that he was high or drunk or just trying to push me away out of fear. But silence. Nothing. And when I opened Instagram, there it was. Posts from his account. Him and her. The girl from the restaurant. ## first date vibes. With a caption that read, "When you finally find the one who just gets you." I didn't know what was worse, the betrayal or how casual he made it all seem. I thought about moving out, but the lease was in my name. He moved in later, and suddenly a part of me wanted revenge more than escape. He wanted to treat me like I was just a roommate? Fine. I'd be the best damn roommate he'd ever regret underestimating. The first few days I ignored him completely. I didn't flinch when he walked past me shirtless. I stopped making coffee for 2. I played loud music while he was on Zoom calls. Petty, I know, but it gave me control. And he noticed. He started acting awkward, like he didn't know how to live in silence. Good. Then the twist I didn't see coming. I got a message from a girl named Sophie. It read, "Eclair. I'm sorry to bother you, but I think we should talk. It's about Jake." At first, I thought she might be another girl he was dating behind my back. But when I clicked on her profile, everything changed. Her bio said, "Architecture grad intern at Keller Design Group." That was the firm Jake worked for. We met at a coffee shop the next evening. Sophie was sweet, nervous, and clutching her phone like it had a bomb on it. She slid it across the table and said, "I didn't know who else to tell. I overheard something at work. Something bad." She played me a voice recording she had secretly taken in the office hallway. Jake was talking to someone. I recognized his voice instantly, and what he said made my blood freeze. "She thinks I care. But Claire's just convenient. Rent's cheaper when you've got a roommate who's emotionally attached." She handled all the bills, made dinner, kept things neat. And the best part? She thought we were a couple. I never even had to say the words. She did all the heavy lifting. There was laughter in the background. Someone clapped. Jake continued, "I mean, come on. Free therapist, free maid, occasional hookup? That's like the dream." I felt like I was going to vomit. This wasn't just heartbreak. This was manipulation. Calculated. Cruel. Sophie looked at me, guilt in her eyes. "He's up for a promotion. He's pitching a huge sustainability project soon. I think you should know. He's been using some of your design work from Instagram. Without credit." My head spun. I had shared mock-up concepts on my interior design page. Tiny apartment makeovers, color palettes, even architectural sketches for sustainable kitchens. I thought he just liked them. I never imagined he'd steal them. I thanked Sophie and left in a daze. But in that moment, my sadness turned into strategy. I had been a doormat, a fool, a pawn in his little game. But Jake had no idea who he just messed with. 'Cause I was done crying. It was time to play. And this time I wasn't just going to get even. I was going to make sure he never saw it coming. I didn't sleep that night. My mind was a hurricane of memories and possibilities. The blueprint he stole. The love he faked. The girl he humiliated me in front of. All of it swirled into one burning thought. You used me, Jake. Now I'll use you. The next morning, I started laying the foundation for my revenge. First, I cleaned up not just my apartment but myself. I posted a photo on Instagram, smiling, glowing, captioned, "Thriving never looked so good." Within an hour, Jake saw it. He didn't say anything, but I heard his door close harder than usual. Good. Let the silence get loud. Then I got to work. I started compiling every design he had borrowed from me. Every sketch, every concept. I pulled up timestamps, drafts, emails I had sent to friends, even a blog post I wrote a year ago detailing my eco-friendly design approach. It was all there. Clear. Dated. Original. If he used any of it in his pitch, I'd have him by the throat. But I needed more than a copyright claim. So I reached out to Sophie again. She hesitated at first, afraid of getting involved. But when I told her I wasn't just looking to expose Jake, I was planning to make sure he never got that promotion, she was in. She gave me 2 key pieces of info. The date of the pitch and the name of the lead investor. Jake was trying to impress Gregory Marks, a huge name in sustainable architecture. I did some digging and found out Gregory was speaking at a green tech summit 2 days before Jake's pitch. That was my chance. I signed up, prepped a brief version of my project, and went. I dressed professionally, introduced myself as an independent designer, and after his speech, I casually asked if he had a moment to look over a concept I'd been developing for low-income sustainable housing. He was intrigued, took my email, promised to look over my portfolio. I walked out of there buzzing, but that wasn't even the twist. That night, I came home to find Jake pacing in the living room. He looked surprised to see me smiling, almost nervous. "Hey," he said casually. "You've been out a lot lately." I shrugged. "Just busy." He sat down watching me. "I've been thinking, maybe we should talk. I feel like there's been some tension." I tilted my head. "Tension? You mean from the part where you paraded your new date in front of me at our dinner, humiliated me, then posted about it like I never existed?" He flinched, but recovered fast. "Okay, I messed up, but I think we should clear the air. No hard feelings." I smiled sweetly. "Of course. I've already moved on." And in that moment I saw something flicker across his face. Not regret, not guilt, jealousy. It hit me like a wave. Jake wasn't used to losing control. He didn't want me, he just didn't want me to stop wanting him. That's when I decided to hit him where it hurt most. His ego. I called my friend Maya, who was a brilliant digital editor. I gave her the audio Sophie had recorded. Maya cleaned it up, improved the sound, cut out background noise. Then she edited it into a slick little video with a simple caption: "Architect of Lies. How Jake Monroe manipulates women, exploits design work, and plays the perfect roommate." I didn't post it. Not yet. I saved it like a loaded gun. The day before Jake's pitch, I got an email from Gregory Marx's office. He wanted to meet. He had reviewed my portfolio. He said it showed real originality and social value. He asked if I was available to consult on a new affordable housing initiative he was quietly building a team for. I stared at the screen for 5 full minutes before screaming into a pillow. Jake thought he used me, but now I was sitting at the table he was begging to get into. And the best part? He still had no idea. The day of Jake's big pitch arrived. He left the apartment early, dressed in his best navy suit, carrying that sleek black folder I'd seen him polish the night before. He didn't say a word to me. Just adjusted his tie in the mirror, flashed that phony, confident smirk, and walked out like he was about to conquer the world. I waited exactly 15 minutes. Then I got dressed, printed out my original sketches, and walked out the door, straight into the storm I had quietly been building for weeks. Sophie had already texted me that the meeting would be in Keller's main conference room, where all major client presentations happened. That gave me a narrow window. I arrived just as Jake was walking in, and from the hallway, I watched from behind a glass divider. He stood at the head of the table, flipping open his folder, and beginning to speak like the world owed him attention. And then Gregory Marx walked in, 5 minutes late, but perfectly timed. I took a deep breath and stepped inside right behind him. Jake's face turned white. For a second, his voice caught in his throat. But he kept going, pretending he didn't just see his roommate who took it too seriously stroll in like she belonged there. Gregory interrupted before Jake could finish his intro slide. "Actually," he said, motioning to me, "I'd like to hear from Claire. Her work is why I'm here today." The room fell dead silent. Jake looked like his spine collapsed under his suit. Someone from HR whispered, "Wait, who's Claire?" I walked to the front, took out my folder, and handed copies around the table. "These are my original designs. Dated, documented. Jake used these in his pitch, without my permission." Gasps. One executive leaned forward. "Is this true, Jake?" He stuttered. "I mean, Claire helped me brainstorm. It was collaborative." "Really?" I cut in, keeping my voice steady, because I have a recording of Jake saying, and I quote, "She thinks I care, but she's just convenient, free-made, free therapist, occasional hookup." Should I play it? You could have heard a pin drop. Jake froze. I didn't need to press play. The look on everyone's faces was enough. Gregory slowly stood. "I don't work with liars. Or thieves." Jake tried to speak, but his mouth just moved without words. His boss looked furious, already whispering to HR. And I walked out. But I wasn't done. An hour later, the video Maya edited, the one with Jake's voice, his words, his truth, hit the internet. I posted it anonymously on Reddit and a design ethics forum. Within hours, it was being shared by female architects, interns, designers, and students, all talking about how often men like Jake stole credit, manipulated boundaries, and played God in shared spaces. By that night, his name was trending, not for the promotion he wanted, but for being exposed as the manipulative leech he truly was. But here's the final twist. I came home that evening, ready to celebrate alone. But Jake was there, sitting on the floor in the dark, his suit jacket crumpled next to him. For the first time, I saw him without his armor. No charm, no ego, just a hollow man. He looked up at me. "Why do you do this?" I didn't blink. "Because you never saw me as a person, just a placeholder." He whispered almost to himself. "You ruined everything." I smiled, calm as ever. "No, Jake. I reclaimed everything." And then, before I turned to walk into my room, I said one last thing he'll never forget. "You made me invisible. Now you're the one who's been erased." In the days that followed, the fallout was worse than even I expected. Jake was suspended from work pending a full investigation. HR conducted interviews and Sophie, bless her brave heart, gave a full statement. Multiple women from the office came forward with their own stories. Not just about credit theft, but whispered manipulation, emotional baiting, and inappropriate behavior masked behind charm. By the end of the week, Jake was officially fired. Blacklisted in the architecture community. Emails stopped coming. Calls dried up. His social media pages went dark. And last I heard, he tried to freelance but couldn't get a single client to trust him with a backyard deck, let alone a sustainability project. Meanwhile, my life turned upside down, in the best way. Gregory offered me a junior consulting role on his new initiative, and just 3 months later, I was working side by side with a team of people who actually respected me. I gained clients, traction, and most importantly, confidence. Not the fake kind that comes from someone else's validation. The real kind, born from fire and survival. I moved out of the apartment. Got my own place. A cozy studio with big windows, white walls, and plants that actually stayed alive. I painted one wall olive green, just like the design I had sketched a year ago. Every time I walked in, it felt like a new chapter was breathing around me. People kept messaging me about the video, thanking me for speaking out. A few even said it gave them the courage to leave toxic relationships or finally demand credit for their work. It felt like I had won, like justice had been served. But then came the final twist. One rainy evening, I received a letter. Handwritten. No return address. I opened it with curiosity, assuming it was another thank you note, or maybe even a hate letter from one of Jake's friends. But the handwriting wasn't angry. It was almost delicate. It read, "Claire, you were right. About everything. I never saw you as a person, only as a mirror reflecting back what I wanted to see. That was my failure. But someone else failed you worse. You should know, that first date at the restaurant? It wasn't random. The girl, Alyssa, wasn't someone I just met. She was hired. By someone you know." I read that sentence 3 times. My heart started racing. Months ago, your old college friend Nate reached out to me. Said you were becoming obsessed with your designs, isolating yourself, getting too ambitious for your own good. He said you needed a wake-up call. He offered to pay me $5,000 if I could humble you. Said he wanted to protect you from burning out. Or from thinking you were better than everyone. I took the money. I staged the whole thing. The dinner. The hand-holding. The line about you being just a roommate. It wasn't my line. It was Nate's. I know this doesn't make what I did any better. I still manipulated you. I still used you. But the truth is uglier than you think. You were targeted, Claire. And not just by me. I'm sorry. For everything. But especially for that night. It wasn't just betrayal. It was a setup. Jake. I dropped the letter. Nate. My closest college friend. The one who used to joke about how people like us don't belong in spotlight careers. The one who always offered advice, but never clapped when I won awards. The one who disappeared right when my Instagram started gaining followers. It had never been just about Jake. There had been a snake behind the scenes the whole time. I sat on the floor of my perfectly decorated studio, the rain tapping on the windows, and realized something that chilled me deeper than anything Jake had ever said. Sometimes the people who smile at you the longest are the ones holding the knife the deepest. And just like that, I knew this wasn't the end of my story. It was just the beginning of another. Because the next time someone tried to dim my light, I'd make sure they saw it burn. Never let anyone convince you that you're too much, too ambitious, or too driven. The right people will support your fire, not try to put it out. And sometimes the biggest betrayal doesn't come from enemies, but from the ones who pretend to be your biggest supporters. Trust your gut, own your worth, and never let someone else write your story. If this story gave you chills or made you think twice about the people around you, hit that subscribe button for more powerful, emotional, and twist-filled stories just like this one. Your support helps us keep sharing the truth behind the smiles. See you in the next story.